Morgz is probably the antithesis to a channel like mine. To such an extent, I think even just playing any small clip of him to give you an idea of his content would jar massively with this general relaxed music and Dave's walk tone I go for. He's loud, he's energetic, he's almost constantly shouting and doing hammy acting with all sorts of dramatic challenges set up for camera.
Oh my god! Oh, no!
They're kids' videos, you know? I'm not the target audience, apart from finding a random clip to show you and clips commentary YouTubers have played when taking a mick out of him. I've never actually watched any of his content. In fact, I only know of him because of other commentary channels, which leads to the obvious question, why am I then making a video about Morgz? It's because of the Happy Hour podcast, which I dip in and out of from time to time, despite the fact I'm not one for listening to podcasts. And Morgz went on there for what I believe is his first podcast, possibly first interview. I don't know. Either way, he was clearly quite nervous and not used to this sort of thing, and very much not like the persona he puts on in his videos, which they talked about. You know, Morgz seemed a pretty nice guy here who was relaxed about this exaggerated persona he puts on, who's quite happy and enjoys the way people often laugh and take the mick out of him about it, but admitting it is a persona that helped him grow his channel because high energy and noise and clickbaitiness, I don't think it's insulting to say that about him, have helped him grow.
It is, I'd say on screen, it's not just like a stranger compared to myself, but it's obviously a very enhanced, very energetic, very more like loud.
And it's nice to see how likeable the real Morgz actually is, but on the other hand, it's quite sad to hear him and Jack and Stevie all agreeing that YouTubers are supposed to exaggerate themselves, and that of course they are, it helps them stand out.
So many people do YouTube now, like every man and his dog does YouTube. You need to stand out, don't you?
Exactly,
and if we just sit there and be ourselves, like some of my friends are even shocked now because obviously I elevate my, I don't want to say character, but my Jackmate persona a little bit.
I mean, I don't want to disagree with that idea because they're probably right, it probably does make you stand out, but it's sad when you think YouTube was kind of started as this home video site where ordinary people get to show their ordinary selves to the world. You know, it was a direct contrast to the often flashy, over-dramatised world of TV where even reality shows deliberately fabricate conflict and edit everything to add as much drama as they can. YouTube was meant to be a refreshing change from that, where vlogs are just ordinary people being their honest selves. But I think that side of YouTube died a long time ago. If it was even ever truly there, I don't know, it's hard to remember. I was a little kid at the time. But I guess it's also probably what happens for reality shows on TV as well. Like, they were probably supposed to show us a refreshing insight to another side of reality or other people's lives, but slowly they exaggerated little bits more and more to make it stand out, to get people coming back, and increasingly dramatised until such a point where you're left with a hyper reality in a way that's probably much less real than actual dramas are in a lot of ways. Something that looks like reality, as vlogs do, they look like real life, and there's YouTubers telling us this is real life, and yet it all often feels very fabricated, and somehow that can make it feel a bit like a lie, like we're being sold a trick version of reality. And I'm not going to go down the route of existential dreads in a modern world here type stuff, and neither do I want to criticise exaggeration like some old fuddy-duddy railing at the new world type thing, because, you know, what's the point in that? I guess so far I'm just saying it's interesting that there is this other side to everything I touched on in my PewDiePie video, for example. There I talked about how good it is that a celebrity as big as him, that we can very easily tease him and laugh and mock and have him tease us back via his Lawai videos and stuff, and just how refreshing it is to be able to have that sort of interaction with famous people where you'd previously only see these half-fabricated glimpses of them through the chat shows they're on and things. That is wonderful. But the other side of that is the question, are we having interactions with real people? What if it's just a show of connection, you know? Those of you here, even, I've talked to in the comments and things, is that partly a show? Because, I mean, whilst it always has been my ambition to be as sincere on here as I possibly can, that doesn't mean you guys see all of me. You know, I do talk and express my real self on here, even if I have had to curb my swearing and things. But, you know, there's also the real me that expresses himself in a very different way when, like, I play Warzone or FIFA or something. You'd probably be baffled to hear what I'm like then compared to here. Nor do you see the energetic side of me, because I tend not to feel energetic when I'm sitting on my own in front of a microphone, which probably then gives you all the impression that I'm constantly chilled out my entire life. But yeah, all that means the me you get to connect with is the real me, but it's not all the real me. And does the fact I'm reduced down to just this one side of me, does that make it all a bit of a disingenuous trick, however unintended that trick is? I don't know. I mean, identity is such a messy, elusive, ever-changing thing. I know we all often try to pin it down to specific things, but it is frighteningly ambivalent a lot of the time, and I suppose that's the same with connection. It's weird how I've gotten to this from Morgz, but I'm just thinking we only really find connection in pockets most of the time. You know, like, we connect to specific things people say, or specific songs, or specific lyrics of specific songs, but not everything. It's an exchange, really. Two people put bits of themselves into an interaction, and they take bits from the other person out, and you never entirely see all of someone, I don't think. I kind of said it in one of my Good Will Hunting videos, I think, actually, that, you know, we're forever tuning into each other, and sometimes we get the frequency right, and then connection just sort of explodes, and then we have to try tuning in again in another moment. And there's a nice kind of dance to that, I think. People would probably be very boring if we could see all of them all the time. It's nice how much of a kind of unravelling social interaction is. The fact is, you don't see all of me. I think I prefer to hold at least something back, because YouTube can feel very exposing at times in a way I never really expected it to be. Like, that sudden leap I made from about 3,000 to 40,000 subscribers has been fantastic, but it does come with a feeling of exposure that I've had to adjust to. And I hide my face and some of my identity, obviously. That's for the sake of my job, but it does also keep things a bit safe for me, I think. And that's okay, you know, I don't think connection always does have to be absolute. You don't need to totally crash into each other and merge. Sometimes you just want, like, a little bridge between the two of you that runs across, and that you can send little things across. Maybe not always, but sometimes I think that's enough for both sides. Whatever I've said about YouTube's home video feel dying, I don't think sincerity itself is dying out. I think sincerity is probably growing, actually, if anything. I don't know, but in podcast form now, I think, you know, you could practically drown in the amount of podcasts there are nowadays, and suddenly someone like Morgz, who seems as removed from me as you could possibly get, goes on a podcast, and I find myself quite liking him. There's sincerity there. You know, Morgz is sincere enough in that interview that we're able to see his nervousness, as you will probably see of me should the day ever come where I muster the courage to do a live stream. Hopefully sometime soon. It's nice to see that nervousness though. It's charming in its own way. And I wonder if there are sides of TV that are getting a bit less dramatised and a bit more real now as well. Like, for example, there's a show my dad loves called Gone Fishing, Mortimer and Whitehouse, or Mortimer and Whitehouse Gone Fishing, one of the two, which is literally two old comedians, Bob Mortimer and Paul Whitehouse, who are very close friends, and they just go fishing for the day. You know, no big events, no rehearsed or dramatised moments, barely even any music, just two old blokes ambling about the countryside, attempting to fish and having a laugh. It's a very relaxed, nice, enjoyable show that appeals precisely because it doesn't exaggerate. So I don't think anything's happening to sincerity itself, I just think it finds different places to express itself. I mean, we do go hunting for drama because it does grab our attention and reel us in, and the more it reels us in, the more dramatic they make it to appeal to that, until suddenly we feel we've lost touch with the reality, and there's then this other part of us that's yearning for something sincere again. So another medium finds a way of offering that sincerity that we've lost. That's fine. I've got no problem with Morgz. I think what he does entertains kids. I don't think it offers them anything more. And I think someone like Mr. Rogers would probably turn in his grave at the idea of Morgz, and he'd probably be justified in doing that, because Mr. Rogers is someone who offered meaning and truth and a level of healing and relaxation for kids. But there is nothing wrong in Morgz or the forced energy, and Morgz does seem like a nice guy, and I think, persona or not, something of the real you does always shine through. As it does with comedians, for example. Like, I did that video on James Acaster. He's not really an absurd alien, but something of the real him will be in that persona of an absurd alien somewhere. And if there's a little something, maybe it's like that little bridge idea again, where you can ferry little bits of yourself across whilst still keeping the real you kind of safe. Maybe it's like that. And I guess if Morgz is as nice a guy as he seemed in the podcast, I don't know, as I said, I've not really watched his content, but if he is a nice guy and some of that does shine through in places in his content, then offering that as an experience to kids is a good thing. Just being a nice guy, no matter how forced the drama is he projects around it. If he is that nice, that immediately I think makes him much, much better than a Jake Paul. So have I said anything of particular merit here? I don't know. I just think it's interesting. Morgz is the total antithesis to my sort of channel, but it's nice to realise there's still something of him I can kind of relate to. Let me know what you think anyway, good or bad. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you fancy more, support me on Patreon if you fancy even more, but otherwise, hopefully see you next time. And a special thank you goes to Brian Newbert, Devin, David Kling, Darren Burdock-Latter, Kestrel, Gay Hitler, Samara Salsi and Sharakov2814. Thank you.